just let me, oh, sorry. And yeah, I should also mention this is going to be recorded. So yeah, it's just going to be like internal with all of us. And it's not a very big room today, right? So that's what I like to, really get to know everyone that's in the room. So what I'd like everyone to do, because I'm aware of who's in the room, but not everyone would probably be acquainted with each other as well, right? So what I'd like everyone to do is just quickly introduce yourself in the chat. So I'll just type it down, right? So I mean your preferred name, what you do, are you an employee or freelancer, and are you from Indonesia or Malaysia? Okay, so this is like the format in the chat. So yeah, I mean, since I know some of you are not comfortable turning on your cameras, that's totally cool. But yeah, just as way of you guys connecting with each other as well, because why else are we here, right? We're here to network, we're here to learn together with each other today. So yeah, just share what you do and fill up the format, and yeah, let's go through and get to know each other as well. Okay. Seems like you guys are quite shy. I do this quite often. So I know sometimes the room a little bit shy, people don't want to talk about myself, don't want to show my face. So it's okay. But yeah, do take the opportunity to connect with each other. If you guys got a LinkedIn or like your Behance or whatever, just plug it in here as well. Get to know each other. I think that's kind of why we do what we do, right? To connect with each other and to benefit from each other's community as well. Oh, somebody's just writing from a phone. I see the thumb over the screen.
I can drop it to her. I can DM it to her, Tyler.
Okay, thank you. Right, yeah, welcome, Sylvia. So yeah, while everyone's typing it down, let me just take you guys through the course, right? I'll get back to this. Make sure you guys fill it up. I'll check whose names are there. Huh? I already read everyone's names just now, so I remember your names roughly. Okay, so welcome to the Cloud Certified course to become a creative that with a professional aesthetic. So the purpose of this course, right, is mainly to guide you guys through a few aspects, I would say, of creative work, because creative freelance, the nature of our jobs are very flexible. But ultimately, why you guys are here is for you to transition, let's say, full time into freelancing, right? To do what you really love doing. So let me know when you guys signed up, right? In addition to your preferred name and such, as you introduce yourself in the chat, let me know why you're here. Because every creative, I think, is trying to achieve our own idea of success, right? Whether it's to really hone our craft, to be really good at art, if it's to travel the world and experience different types of inspirations to continue creating, so on and so forth. Whatever that idea of success is to you, let me know what that is and why that brought you here today, right? Because I think the reason you sign up for something that's 3 hours long on a Tuesday afternoon is really because it's not because you want something fun to do, right? You're here to learn, you're here to improve yourself, which is what I want to make sure that I help you do here as well. So yeah, type in the reasons for why you guys are here. Of course, yeah, you see the Green Alien Cult Creative, that is Lina. So she's a co-founder of Cult Creative and she's talking here to help out. So yeah, really, really good to have you to back up, Lina. It's so nice. Just in case you're wondering who the Green Alien is, huh? Okay, so Nabila says, my name is Nabila Skama, is it? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, please correct me. Recent graduate, aim to be a freelancer from Malaysia. Okay, nice to meet you. Good to have you here. Atep, you're a motion designer. Ah, okay. Freelancer from Indonesia. I like that you plugged your website here, man. That's good. That's good. We'll check it out later. All right, that's Andy. Yeah, and you guys, in case you guys didn't know, Andy is our community lead in Cloud Creative here, based in Bali as well, in Indonesia. So I mean, you guys want to grab coffee or something, like yeah, Andy's always down, man. And Rania is here. So Rania is a social media specialist, currently an employee based in Indonesia. Ah, okay. Good to have you here. So yeah, that's why I know you guys have a pretty diverse, background in the room today. So it's quite interesting to see how you guys would, connect with each other as well. So Harin, preferred name is Harin. What he does, performance marketing specialist. Oh, okay. So all the numbers and SEO and the overall tracking on spend. Okay. Employee based in Malaysia and Indonesia. Oh, okay. Sorry, based in Malaysia. And want to learn more about freelancing, and that's his LinkedIn. Yeah, so get connected, guys. Plug your socials or something that you guys can connect with each other with as well. So that's Hannah, based in Malaysia. have corporate background, but want to be more creative and look into freelancing. Yeah lah. Trust me, I started similarly as well. You know, you just get so, not to say that that the corporate job is bad, right? But you just like doing the creative work more. And freelancing is the way you can monetize those creative hours, right? So why not? It's not bad to have some extra cash, especially in this economy, right? So sorry, scammers, all feeling extra shy today. Don't shy lah. I'm wearing a panda shirt, man. You guys can tell. So don't need to shy. There's no worries here. Okay, it's all safe. So Muzafar's here. Muzaffar, the Ikeche. Right. So he's a filmmaker. Oh, nice. Especially in camera operations, film directing, film producing, color grading. Oh, okay. So it's the full 9 yards. Currently a freelancer based in Malaysia, and that's his LinkedIn. Cool. We'll check it out. We'll check it out, man. Okay, SC from Indonesia, remote worker for the EOR industry. What is the EOR industry? Sorry. If you could clarify, that'd be really helpful. I want to learn how to be successful freelancing and seeing as a business asset. Okay. Yeah, so that's a very specific part that you caught throughout the whole thing. Because I think, yeah, that's something I'll cover later, no worries. But definitely something that we'll be going over. So good to have you with us. Geeta here is a digital marketer, currently looking for work. Okay, actually based in Ireland. What time is it in Ireland? It's quite late, isn't it? So yeah, thanks for making the time to join us, man. My goodness. Join us because I want to learn more about freelancing. Well, good to have you with us, and thanks for staying awake. And I think the Irish coffee would help to keep you awake too. Irish coffee is so strong, my goodness. And I don't mean the alcoholic one, like proper coffee. It's strong enough as is, man. Okay, so Fadila is here. Call you Dila. Okay, I'll call you Dila. Working in a consulting company for waste management projects in Indonesia. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Not something you hear about every day. As a comms coordinator, same like Hannah, looking into freelancing and friends with Andy. Okay. Kawan-kawan Andy lah. Gita's is 5 a.m. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, so it's really early. Cool. So Sylvia's here, English and Chinese digital marketer, freelancer from Singapore, based in Sydney. Oh wait, hold on. So okay, freelancer from Singapore, but now you're based in Disney. Okay. Learn how to grow freelancing into a business. Okay. So in that transition point where you've been freelancing for a while, you want to take it into a business. Okay. Got it. Okay, cool. So keep the introductions coming for those of you who are still, haven't gone through. And yeah, do read through that as well and get connected with each other on your LinkedIn and so on your socials, your websites, plug it, we're all here to connect with each other, right? We're all in the creative industry. We'll need each other's help somehow, some way in the future. So let's get it started. All right. So let me cover the purpose of the course, right? So just to zoom in on to refresh why you guys signed up for today. First, to understand the key lifestyle differences between full-time employment and full-time freelancing. So I think some of you guys who are already freelancing or running your own businesses, you guys will probably have an understanding of that transition already. But for the benefit of those who are under full-time employment, I think it's good to see that difference on the other side, right? And those who are on the other side already, you can confirm with me whether that's really the experience or not as well. But I think everyone has to go through that. And sometimes it's good to reflect on what our employment life used to be on those hard days where we're freelancing as well. So we can understand why we're still doing what we're doing, right? Second one is to learn 3 key techniques to better manage yourself and your mental health, right? So that'll be a second module. And third part will be to develop your work arrangement around your ideal work-life integration. Because one of the key things about freelancing, just to preface the whole unit, right, is you are basically your own boss, right? So you need to be able to manage your time, your energy, and everything else to make sure that your work life is balanced in a way that works well for you. So it doesn't mean you divide it, but it's balanced well for you, right? And you're also able to apply the best communication practices for better client relationships. And those people who are from comms background, nanti I'll check your answers. But don't worry, it's not an exam. I'm just kidding. But yeah, but feel free to share your answers later, because this will be, again, not something that I want to be a lecture. I don't want you to just listen to me like I'm a 3-hour podcast. That'll be really boring. What I want you guys to do is interact. So I'll call names if you guys don't volunteer later as well. Because I think it's good that you participate, right? You already, you already bought the ticket. You guys are already making the time here. So I think it's good that you make the most of the time you have here as well, right? So let's cover what we'll be learning. So we'll be covering, first of all, cultivating the winning freelance mindset. Yeah, spoiler, it's not chilling on the beach with your laptop, sipping on drinks. That is the image that a lot of people have when I asked, what's your image of you freelancing? And they say, I want to be on an island on the beach working. When you're on the beach, usually you're not working, right? Because laptop and the sand and everything, no one wants that actually, right? So second part will be covering cultivating your own inner champion. So be on boss, your own champion as well. Third part is cultivating your ideal work week. So make your work week work for you. It's essentially what the unit is about. And the fourth part is cultivating communication etiquette. So communicating with effect and with tact, because that kind of has to go hand in hand for things to work, right? So there's a lot of talking and a lot of learning to be prefaced by. So just give me a thumbs up if you guys are ready. Just give me a thumbs up or type yes in the chat if you guys are ready to start. Okay, thumbs up for the green alien, Lina. Mustafa's good. Dila's good. Okay. Nabila's good. All right, cool. Ready. So keep your pens and papers ready and get ready to unmute yourselves because I would ask you guys to chat every now and then. So yeah, without further ado, let's start the first unit, right? Let's jump right into it because we only got 3 hours. So cultivating the winning freelance mindset. So first question I would like to ask everyone who's, let's say, made the jump already. Why did you choose to go down the freelancing route instead of remaining just an employee? You can feel free to type that out in the chat, or you can feel free to unmute yourself and share your story as well. Just mention your name first so I know who to look for. Yeah, why did you choose to freelance instead of just remaining an employee? Perhaps how the question may be different for those who are currently still an employee and you're here curious about freelancing. Why are you curious about the route of freelancing? What made you want to go down this route instead of just staying in the day job? I see Muzaffar's already unmuted, so I'm gonna ask you, bro. Like, why do you decide to start your own business, man?
Hi, my name is Zafar. If you guys didn't know, I chose like think the route of freelancing because I want to kind of like diversify the things I do instead of like sticking into an entity, a business entity that does one singular thing. It could be ranging from a lot like creative brand films or commercials and stuff like that. So that's kind of why I kind of started going through the freelance route. I think I've been doing it for at least like 2 years. And, from that, like it's right after I graduated from uni as well. So after that, I just straight away just made my own company. And, that's why I'm here trying to learn more about this space. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, cool. So I guess in some degree it was, let's say, control over, let's say, the artistic delivery, the style, the things you really wanted to do, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to do more the things that I believe that I was passionate about, and of course that some ideas that I have probably would suit the mindsets of certain clients, and yeah, that's why I kind of like went to that route lah.
All right, cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing your story, man. And yeah, 2 years, congrats, man. It's not easy. First year is the hardest, I think, usually.
Yeah, it is.
All right, cool. Thanks for sharing your story. So, nobody else share story. Why lah? So quiet, you all. How about Geeta? Because I know you're tuning in from like 5 a.m., right? So Geeta, what's your story?
Can you hear me? Actually, sorry.
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, so I guess I was just really curious about the freelancing life, because like I guess it's something that it's the freedom that I like about it. It's the flexibility. Yeah, like I guess I just want to see what's out there, the choices.
Okay, see what's out there, the choices. All right, so it's more exploratory for you, right? Like in terms of what
Um,
could my work life look like in that sense.
Yeah. So I'm a digital marketer. So I used to work for an advertising agency. Um, but I think like I guess I kind of just want to travel, I think, at this time and work. Um, so yeah, I guess it's just the flexibility. But yeah, I don't
Right.
really have a huge story behind it. Sorry.
No, it's okay,
Just
cool.
curiosity.
Yeah, that's how it always starts. So yeah, no worries. But yeah, I appreciate
Yeah,
taking the time to share your story as well, Geeta. Thanks.
thanks.
Right, cool. So I think the general reason, right? And just some context for everyone, because I'm a talent acquisition specialist, but my first job I actually started out working as a freelance remote ghostwriter. This was back in I think 2013, 2014. So back when you're still Skype, very pixelated, no Zoom, right? This is all very nice. You get very pixelated, calls, and the quality of the calls are all cracking and everything. Audio was terrible back then. So I started freelancing since back then. So I actually started freelancing before I went into full time. So I've seen how a lot of the freelance structures work and how a lot of the, let's say, employers try to integrate, let's say, freelancers into the way they work. And currently what I do is more of, I would say, in a way, organizational design, where I help to build, let's say, or integrate gig workers into full-time companies' talent strategies. So in very simple terms, I help companies to make sure that they use freelancers to support the current workforce so that nobody burns out and everyone's happy, right? So I've seen like a lot of differences, between my own career and like other people's career as well, and how companies view the differences, how they understand the benefits of each work arrangement, for example, and how they apply it to the way we work. So usually it boils down to one main word, and I think that is control. So there are multiple reasons, right? For example, control over your clients. Because I know a lot of people, for example, let's say you're in a day job where you're like, you know that maybe this isn't the best client to take on. You think that maybe it doesn't really fit the style of what they're looking for, and you want to focus on clients that you can do really good work for. So that's one of the reasons. I think that's quite common among a lot of freelancers. And feel free to just type in yes in the chat if that that has ever been you and for any of these as well. Business model in terms of how you charge, the type of work you want to do, how you structure that, your working hours, which Geeta mentioned, flexibility. So working hours or working from anywhere, the location wise, overall balance, because when you're in, I think, a day job, it's very much a matter of working according to hours that's been set for you, or boundaries, or an environment that's already set for you, right? And the amount that you can flex is maybe this much within that structure, right? And I think more than that, over the past 2 years with COVID, a lot of people chose to freelance because they want more personal time, right? Or they want control over their personal time and how they spend their personal time, right? So they decide to go for grocery shopping at 3 p.m. They can, it's an option. Not to say that everyone wants to do that, but I know some people do, right? I am one of them, so I'm defending my people. But it is an option that I think what a lot of people look for, right? So I think mostly why you would go down the freelance route instead of staying in a full-time job, is so that you have some area of control here. And right, so I know some of you, for example, are in a full-time job and you're also freelancing on the side, or you're looking to freelance on the side. I have a feeling that for most people I've talked to so far, at least, it usually stems from, again, you want to seek an area, this little pocket where you can do the creative work that you really like doing. And that's why you would want to freelance on the side, right? So you have some control where maybe you don't have all the control in your day job, but at least you have this little pocket where you do work that you really feel passionate and you care about, right? Is that kind of what you guys are looking for? Just give me a thumbs up if that's you. Okay. So yeah, quite a number of thumbs up as well. Yeah. So that's why, it's usually around the area of control. And what would be the differences, or what would that look like? Typically around here. So I just go through one by one, yeah. But if you guys are fast readers, yeah, you'll probably cover everything. But freelancing, you can be considered your own boss. Contract periods are typically kind of short, depending on whether you do retainers or not. Structure is it's a different topic altogether, right? But reduce the possibility of getting bored, because you get to switch different types of work, or you can modularize, let's say, how many clients you take on per time, type of work you're doing. It's entirely up to you because you're your boss, right? Have you learned insights about other aspects of running a business? Because when you freelance, we'll talk about this later as well, you would start noticing you have to act as a business, because the aspects of how much to charge, when you got invoice, collecting payment, things like that, you didn't have to deal with before. Now it's part of your job scope as well, because you're your own boss, right? You do everything for yourself too. Likely of attaining work-life balance is probably higher because again, you get to choose. As long as you are firm about what you want and you pursue it, usually people who go down this route, you get kind of the balance that you want ultimately. You'll find some footing within the first year, second year onwards, you kind of already know what you want. Freedom of work, you get to choose the clients and projects you want to work on. Plain and simple, right? Full-time job, there are some benefits though. So what I want to do here is kind of point out each and see which camp you kind of prefer. Access a steady stream of income. So one of the things you realize, and I think Muzaffar has been through this already, right? In your first year of full-time freelancing, you initially be a bit shaken by the idea of not having a steady income stream, right? So it kind of fluctuates. Some months you do really well, then next month's like, oh shoot, I need to find more clients, then before you start building up that funnel, I think that's a kind of the trial by fire for a lot of people who jump into freelancing. So as an employee, what you would miss is the steady stream of income, and you're able to do this, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. Sorry, there's a bit of a typo here. I have very fat thumbs, so I think that's probably why. So access to paid sick leave and vacation time based on employer policy. So one of the things that you realize in freelancing is because you're own boss, you don't have days off. You don't necessarily take the day off even on public holidays, for example. And sometimes when you're sick, you're one person, you can't ask a teammate to step in or something until you've got more people in the team, right? So you kind of would miss the access to paid sick leave, so on, vacation time that is determined by law that a company needs to give you. But you realize that, as your own boss, you don't necessarily give it to yourself as well, right? Something you would realize. Access to health and other insurance benefits. So that's something that I think some people don't consider as well, where that security financially for, let's say, your health benefits and such, is something that is a benefit of having a full-time job. And the possibility of career growth within organization. From my experience, unless you are the very highly ambitious type, it's usually kind of slow, really depends on whether your boss likes you, million factors, right? But you definitely would move along the barrel as long as you keep improving yourself. It's just a matter of how fast, right? So you get to get promoted, paid more incrementally. It's a bit safer, but it's also a bit slower. So the trade-off you're making here, right, can be summarized in a few ways. So some things you won't have as an employee. A lot of it centers around instability, right? So in exchange for the control that you have over your life and work, what you'll need to endure, and this is, I think, pretty much true for everyone that decides to freelance or switch into full-time freelancing, ultimately, personal finances and structure of life will definitely shift. And that's one of the first hurdles you'll probably have to mentally put yourself through, because you start doing the accounting like, I'm not getting a steady income, but you see your savings start to deplete a little bit, maybe the first month, you start having doubts and all that. So that definitely will hit you. And anyone who's been past that, you've been freelancing for a while, you definitely know that as well, right? You definitely have been through that at least once. Second is the uncertainty. So you no longer have a team and a boss, right? You don't have anyone to rely on, let's say, to make a decision about work. So therefore, everything is hung up on you, and sometimes you're really not sure what to do in this situation. You just need to figure it out. That's why community kind of helps, right? That's kind of why I kind of joined the Cloud Creative community as well, because you realize that you have some questions you maybe don't have answers to, or you really struggle to try and find how to answer it. And just need to ask somebody, but the decision ultimately is still you. So you need to decide your own direction, and there'll be times where you're really not sure about how to continue. That will definitely be days where you just sit down like, should I just go back to a job? And you start browsing jobs again on Job Street or any other job portal or Cloud Creative. You start searching through the jobs that's there and like, maybe I should go back to full-time, maybe freelancing isn't for me. So that definitely will hit everyone at some point, right? Sucking at something new is something that will be kind of a tune for you throughout your freelancing career. Because you will need to learn the business end of things. Like, okay, I know a lot of us, right? We, as creatives, we like doing the art stuff. We like delivering good work. We like, let's say if you're digital marketing as well, you like making sure the campaign runs, you get returns. We're good at doing that part of the work. But the business admin things though, like registering a company, making sure you're tax compliant, all of that stuff, oh, it's a whole learning curve, right? You'll suck at it in the beginning. but over time you get the hang of it and it becomes cyclical after a while. But there will be that period where you're gonna feel like, oh wow, I didn't know I was this bad at, stuff like this, right? But you start realizing after a while that it is part of what you have to do. So your taxes, accounting, drafting your own business terms, contracts. So you will suck at things constantly, but it's part and parcel essentially of the whole freelance hustle, right? So it's already part of it. You can't run away from it. Everyone has to go through it at some point. The sooner you face it, I guess the better, right? And of course, loneliness as well. So there will be days where you really would feel alone. And the reason for that, number one, I think is partially because you're isolating yourself from working. Because again, one thing you won't realize until you're in it is, when you don't have your colleagues anymore, you don't have your bosses anymore, you don't have that kind of social connection when you're working, right? So you'll be working on your own, you'll be working with your clients, but no one's really on your side when you're working. And I think to a lot of people, that's kind of what they will work through, right? Oh, Hannah's just shared an insight. So I worked as a remote writer for a few months, really lonely. Yep. So even though I'm an introvert, I didn't mind working alone. Right. Yeah. So that's the thing. It's not a matter of introversion though. I think where I boil this down to, right, from talking to a lot of creatives, Hannah, very much like yourself. I'm also a remote writer, by the way. I can't art for anything. I'm just really more of a writer. So the thing is, introversion is it speaks to how you process thoughts. So you want to be quiet to process certain things or to do certain things. If you're an extrovert, you would probably do that better in a group, right? That's where the social aspect of extroversion comes in. It really doesn't matter of whether how outgoing you are and all that. It's totally not the scientific literature. So the loneliness, I think, stems from, the lack of social connection. You don't really have anyone to discuss the same work problems with that, you would start missing the colleagues that you used to do that with, the boss you used to do that with, for example. So even though you're working in a company with a team, but you're not physically in the office there to chat with each other and to chit chat, go for lunch and things like that, the loneliness does seep in sometimes. It's something that will hit you, definitely. So thanks for sharing that, Hannah. I know it's something vulnerable to share, so I appreciate you sharing that with us as well. Right? So, someone else is coming to the room. Okay, I'll let him in. But yeah, so how many of you have felt the, let's say, the instability? Can I see a show of hands? Just raise your hand or thumb me up. That will also work. How many of you? Right, Muzaffar, yeah? Yeah. Hannah as well. The instability part, yep. Hits everyone. The uncertainty, who has felt that one? I think this doesn't really limit to like freelancers. So I think in jobs, sometimes you feel uncertainty as well, So, okay, Dila has felt that. Jillian as well, right? Yeah. And sucking is something new. I think this one we all have been, right? I mean, sometimes you just look at the work that you produce as well, you're like, ew, how did I do that? They scrap the whole thing and start again. So sucking is something I think is something quite normal for, I guess, creatives, right? Shafiq said, yeah, instability. Yep. We've been there, man. We've been there. And the loneliness, I know Hannah's been there, but how many of you, honestly, right? How many of you have felt the loneliness as well? Like sometimes it can be just like a day even. Like how many of you have felt that? Gillian as well. Okay. Harin, SD, the rest of you guys, Shafiq as well. Yeah, Nabila, Sylvia. All right. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, guys. So yeah, it can basically, like the transition, what I want to put forward in like this first unit is not sharing, let's say because the whole point is I'm not a like a guru that's trying to teach you how to create a, a business that sells like 4,000 in a day, you can work remotely. No, that's not me. What I want to highlight, I think that a lot of people tend to overlook when they're making a decision of whether to go full-time freelancing is the hardship that you have to endure. People think it's naturally better than employment. It really isn't. It's a different structure altogether. It's just a matter of what your preferences are. Nothing wrong being an employee, nothing wrong with going full-time freelancing. It really boils down to what you want at the end of the day, right? But I think it'll be a disservice to not highlight the mental toughness you would need to shift and jump ship full-time into freelancing, right? So whether you're emotionally ready or not for that is totally a different question, right? It's something that you need to consider before you move forward with things. Okay, cool. So I see more comments here. Shafiq, I was lucky enough that most of my clients I want to work with hang out with the team. That's nice. I want more clients like that. Like honestly, that makes a big difference, right? Because if they chill, they're able to hang out with you guys. Cool. Then it's nice, right? Because you technically you have that social work life as well, which is good. As he says, as a remote worker, I also experience the loneliness and feeling stuck sometimes. Yeah, yeah. Remote, that's the thing. You don't have to be a freelancer, but even if you're a remote working arrangement where you're the only one that's working from, let's say, your area, yeah, you that loneliness and isolation does seep in at times because you see your colleagues going for lunch in their photo and all that, and you're like, you, but I'm not there. That sort of feeling happens. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. Shafiq says, I'm an extrovert, so I always find a way to connect with the client team. Yes, man. I'm also openly an extrovert, so you'll find a way, like, you ajak friend, hey, client, hey, want to go coffee, want to go here, want to check this and that. Or let's say their teams itself, right? They include you because if you're a vendor or freelancer to them, they're like, hey, call the freelancer also, we are working together, what technically. So it's just different contract arrangements here, but essentially we're colleagues, we are working on the same side, right? Cool. Mustafa says, I think for me, it's like all three of the above, except loneliness. Oh, okay. Due to nature of the work, it's always based on collaborative environment. Right. Yeah, production is different because you always have a crew with you, right? So whether it's a combination of this different team, that different team on a project. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Okay, cool. And Shafi said, yes, correct. Most of the time, I also get invited to the annual dinner activity. Okay lah, then you basically, this is secured contract already lah. They love you so much, man. So good. Keep the client. All right. Yeah, so I guess to summarize, it's usually a combination of these few things that make people quit freelancing. But if you can endure these things, I'm pretty sure you'll make it past that line as well, right? But just setting up mentally, this is something you will feel totally normal. It's part of the journey, man. So yeah, just accept it when it comes. Okay, cool. So moving on to the next slide. So again, just to, I guess, frame this up, I kind of already mentioned this just now. It's not all upsides, it has pros and cons. Those who choose to be freelancers have to consciously endure those challenges and learn to overcome them to regain control over our income and our freedom, right? Because if you want that control comes with a responsibility to yourself, right? Not to anyone else, to yourself, because you need to make sure you deliver, you feel good in your work environment, and you're treating yourself right. Because when you're on your own boss, sometimes you have very critical talks with yourself during the day, and you need to find out how to manage that as well. So this is where, remember the worksheet I mentioned earlier to download. So I want you guys to open that up now, right? So it's going to look something like this, just to show this on slide. But in your own PCs or if you're on your phone as well, just open up that link. There will be fillable fields here on that slide for you to fill in for yourself, right? So I want you to answer these questions honestly, right? Sit with yourself, think about it. Totally private. You don't have to share it to anyone if you don't want to, but just be really honest with yourself, right? First question, what do you not like about being an employee? Right? So even those of you who have already crossed the line, you're already freelancing or you have your own business, reflect on the reasons that you started to freelance or start your business as well, right? So treat this as a reflective exercise. What did you not like about being an employee, right? So it could be, if you're having trouble simulating your thoughts, could be anything around, let's say, the work arrangement with your boss, the fact that you didn't really have control over how you worked. For those of you who are perhaps parents, it could be missing out time on important days with your kids, for example, a common reason I've heard actually. Could also just be that you're not really feeling fulfilled and you want to explore things that you want to do on your own, right? Could be that as well. So just be really honest with yourselves about your reason and why you decide to move out. So Dila has shared openly here. So hierarchy and formality. Okay. So try to extend the thought, right? So hierarchy, try to recall, let's say, an instance where you felt small, because I think that's kind of where people would feel the hierarchy thing, right? So was it because you had to go like 3-4 layers of approval before your work can go out? But you know that it's whatever's asked by like the 4th or 5th layers, like it's not good. It's gonna look horrible. The client's not gonna like it, and it comes back to you. Is that one of it? Formality, could it just be like you didn't feel the ability to be open and vulnerable with your colleagues? Is that why? So try to specify the reasons and try not to put it as a single word, be very specific. The more specific you are, the better, right? Because that kind of helps you explore and understand exactly why, you would trigger those thoughts, right? So as he says, cannot get higher income, all right? Stability means same income every month. So yeah, that's the trade-off we mentioned earlier, right? The financial stability versus, how much you earn. Like if you're really hardworking, like honestly, freelancing is for you, right? Because if you're willing to work really hard, you can earn quite well, being a freelancer. So that's the nice thing, right? So good that you know that, ST. So financial is actually one of the strongest motivators, man, for a lot of people to move out. Shafiq says less flexibility. So this one you have to specify again, when you mention flexibility, is it because you're not a morning person? You like to work in the afternoons at night? You want to change your own working hours, right? So that could be one. Could also be in terms of location. You don't like having to, wake up in the morning, have to dress up, comb your hair, drive to the office, for example. That could be, very constraining for a lot of people. They don't like to have to go through morning traffic every day. Like it grinds away at their soul. So define what flexibility means to you, right? So for the rest of you as well, take your time to fill this up, and be very honest with yourself, right? So on to the second question. You can fill this up first, you can write 1 or 2 words first, but again, in your own private time, try to expand on it, right? Be very specific. Second question, why is control over your time and income so important to you? Because honestly, people would join for many reasons, join for many reasons, but they will leave their jobs for many reasons, for freelancing full time. And a lot of the times it's usually the tangible everyday things that people leave for, which is usually money and time, which you guys have mentioned, flexibility, and as he has also mentioned, higher income, right? So more inelastic salary levels, as you say, as an employee. So think about, why is that control important to you? Is it because you feel that you want more time to do the things that you really like? Or you want to set up your own ideal working structure where, like, maybe I'm not sure what you guys will do, man. I know some people, they like to read certain things while they are cooking, or they like to play with their kids for 5 minutes and then they jump on to work and then play with the kids again, for example. So I know some parents, they literally plan their work around their chauffeuring schedule for the kids. So give you an idea, right? Some of the parents, the super moms lah, legit, they will like say, okay, I drive my kid to this tuition. I sit down, I do my work for a while, because I just work where there's Wi-Fi, right? Just work. If you got hotspot, lucky best. You don't need any cafe or whatever, as long as you got enough battery. Work, sit in the car and work, pick the kid up, drop at the next, go for like, swimming classes or ballet classes, for example, and then they continue working there by the pool. So yeah, I know a lot of people have different reasons for why that's important to them, but think about the reasons why you want control over your income and your time. Okay, and be honest with yourself here. Third question, when did you realize 100% that you wanted to become a freelancer? So I'm referring to this as you know what a eureka moment is? Yeah, so like a eureka moment. I don't know, the keyboard is misbehaving. There we go. The eureka moment. So it's kind of like the moment where you realize, when you sat down and you're like, oh, that's it, like, I really don't want to keep down this road anymore. I want to freelance, right? Like everyone has a build up towards that. But what was that moment for you that says like, yeah, this is enough. Like, I know I want to go and pursue this and I want to take action. Because honestly, for you guys to sign up for a 3-hour thing on a Tuesday, right? After your lunchtime, where everyone's, probably half sleepy from all the rice that we've been eating as Asians, for example. Yeah, you definitely have to be somewhat motivated to want to really be here or to really be freelancing, right? So think back, for those of you who are already freelancing, what was that moment that says that spoke to you, that said, I needed to move out, like I can't keep being an employee? I need to drop off a meeting, we'll catch the recording. All right, sure, dude. Yeah, have a good meeting, man. So yeah, for those of you who are an employee and you're really thinking about wanting to freelance, maybe you haven't hit the 100% mark yet. But definitely there's a point in time where you realize like, yeah, I probably want to do this, right? So think back what your reasons are and be specific here as well. Okay, this one. So this is the fun one. I want you guys to really think about this, okay? Because if you're gonna be freelancer, one of the best things you could do for yourself as like a creative or someone that's in like marketing, for example, right? Any of the flexible jobs, you get to choose your clients, man. You really do. And your day, how that's gonna go for you, how your career goes for you after that, really depends on the clients you work with and how you work with them as well, right? So you need to be really passionate about what they do. If that's you, you definitely perform really well, right? So who would be your ideal clients? I don't mean clients you think you might want to work with, ideal. So describe them, right? Let's say the way they communicate with you. Do you want to, I know some people, they prefer the professional boundary, right? Like this is purely professional. I'll present as a consultant and then I'll jump off the meeting. And then, okay, I hang out with my friends, but my client's not my friend. But I know some people as well, they like, vibing with the clients. They're like, hey, let's go, like Shafiq, for example, right? Hey, let's go, play badminton. Hey, let's go drink coffee. You hang out with each other. Do you want that kind of relationship? Think about the type of relationship you want to have with your clients, the work that they do. Do you want like big name clients? I know some people, they're very happy working with, let's say, PwC um, or any of the research firms, for example, any of the big fours. I know some people like that kind of prestige that they work with. I also know some people who like choosing specifically only work for fashion brands. So not like the Louis Vuittons and all that, but like, indie small fashion brands and they do marketing for them, for example. So that's the ideal because they like the type of like new ideas that come up from these small fashion brands. So think about your ideal. If you could choose exactly who you want to serve, if the money wasn't an object and if time wasn't too much of an object as well, right? What would that ideal client look like? So describe them in as much detail as you can, be as choosy as you want to be here. Because again, this is ideal, right? You're not talking about realistic, ideal. Let it go and manifest. Okay, you are going to get these clients. Ideally, one day you want to build up towards them. What would they look like? Write it down here. Okay, and if you guys are already working with some ID clients, yeah, brag about it in the chat. I want to see. Because if you're not gonna brag about the good stuff you're doing, then what are you doing, right? So good, brag here. I will listen to it and I will clap. Okay, I will cheer you on. So last part here. How much do you want to earn in your first year of freelancing? So why I think this is important to put like right here is because the feasibility of you continuing to freelance depends on whether it's profitable for you or not, right? So just before this, I talked about ideal. This is where you really ground yourself down to be as realistic as possible, right? So the number really depends for everyone. It'll be very different. This one you don't share in the chat. This one keep to yourself, okay? The finance stuff. I know some people are sensitive around it, so please, if you are, don't have to share about it. But I'll let you know, like in my first year when I was freelancing, right? This was back in what, 2013, 2014. I gave myself a target. So I told myself, okay, because honestly, the money was horrible back then. In the beginning, I just needed to accumulate portfolio, right? So what I did was I used to write for a lot of like magazines, newspapers, publications. Before this was way before like social media was really big, right? So I used to write for all these publications and such, and I'll just charge them like 30 ringgit per article, and it's like 1,000 to 2,000 to 2,000 words per article. I was only charging 30 ringgit. It was like really dirt cheap. Just because I needed the exposure and I needed a lot of things, but I didn't want to do it for free, so I charged them a small fee. But after like 5 months of that, I was so burnt out because I was doing so much volume and getting paid so little. I was like, why am I putting myself through this, if I'm not earning? And that's when I realized, like, you know what? I need to have a financial goal for this, because if I don't, like the creative passion is not going to carry me through all of that. I need to make it work for me so I can support my expenses. Only then would it be feasible to continue doing this full time, right? So then I set up my target. I think my first target was to build up to like just 3,000 ringgit a month. So annually times 12, that's 36,000 a month. Sorry, a year. And that's like just literally the first year. So think about the financial goal you want to hit on like a per month or per year income, because depending on project, right? So for example, in Mustafa's field where it's maybe production, it's not going to be retained like over one whole year, right? Maybe it could be a 6-month project, it could be a 3-week project, really depends. And the fee also is up and down, depending on the client, what they want, specific tools you need, how profitable that is. You need to calculate exactly how that number will add up on a month or a yearly basis, depending on your model and how you want to charge as well. But have that financial goal, because trust me, that's going to be what makes or breaks your decision ultimately, whether you're going to go back to employment or you're going to keep freelancing. Because, if, for example, you like ST, right? You want to get a higher income. A way you can calculate that number sort of for yourself is you look at your current income ST and you think about how much more you want to be earning, right, from there. So you need to calculate what income you need to get from your freelancing to replace your current salary first, right? So at what level you need to replace. Once you can replace it, then you jump out full time. Once you can jump out full time and maintaining that same number for yourself, how much more would you want in the first year, right? So then you know when to be more aggressive with, let's say like, okay, I need to sell, I need to do more. And then you find out when you push for that number, where your tolerance limit is for, let's say, how aggressive you want to go for freelancing, right? So maybe you realize like, okay, maybe I don't want to do this full time. I just want to have a day job and I'll do like maybe 1 or 2 projects on the side. And there's no shame about it. I know a lot of friends who decided to go that route and they're way happier. It really depends again on what you want. But if you don't write it down, you will never really find out where your limits are, what you prefer. And it's really an exploratory kind of journey where you're gonna figure it out along the way. And that's why this will serve as your guide, right? Or your reference to show the state of mind that you were in when you started. Because some days when you feel that the uncertainty, the instability, for example, the tendency to want to quit will always be there. So refer back to this guide and read everything and remember why you started, what were you not happy with, what ideal clients you still haven't gotten to work with, for example, and how much your income could have been. Then you start like, okay, go back to it and try again, right? So you need to have something to refer back to, and I like this document to be that. Okay, so that's why I want you guys in your own private time, be extremely honest with yourself and make sure you write it down. Okay, if you don't write it down and it just remains a thought, it'll never happen. So make sure you write it down for yourself. Okay, pin it up in front of your bed or something, so you think about it. Cool. So done enough talking on this part. And before I move on to module 2, any questions so far? Just feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions at all, or anything you'd like to clarify or story you want to share as well, like please feel free. Okay, if everyone's good so far, just give me a thumbs up, just so I know you're still here. Okay, as he's still here, and Mustafa still here. All right. Cool, Jillian's still here as well. Nice. All right. Yeah, so at any point, if you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat. I have it open on a separate window here, by the way, so I'm able to see it. Just hit me up, let me know, and yeah, I will address it, okay? Because again, the whole point is I don't want to be a lecturer. Like, I think we've had enough of that. We've like what, 3 years, 4 years of education, good God, enough lecturing, So yeah, just treat this as a chat, okay? Now, I'm gonna go on to the second part, because the first 2 modules, a little bit more of me talking. The last 2, a lot more of you guys talking. So if you guys are having your lunch, this is the cue to make sure that, make sure you start swallowing everything by at least 1:30, 1:30, you're gonna definitely start already, okay? So it'll be more you guys talking, I'm just facilitating from then on, okay? But I promise you, it's definitely gonna be worth it. So cool, let's move on to module 2, cultivating your inner champion. So why this is important? You're your own worst enemy when it comes to cultivating change in yourself, right? So usually the resistance comes from within, whether it's the insecurity feeling of like imposter syndrome, right? I'm not really there yet. Can I really do this? Do I want to do this? Is this because I'm being influenced myself? You don't feel confident enough, let's say, to jump off, right? Could be for a number of reasons. It can be a rewarding journey of growth, but not without speed bumps, challenges along the way. I always make sure that people remember this. Don't just look at the ideals, expect this as well and prepare for it. Keep yourself grounded. You need to learn to create your own boundaries and rules for working. And these boundaries will serve as a guide for you to not go too far. That work starts to feel like a chore for you, because the last thing you want to do is try to create a lifestyle that you love and end up being a slave to it. Like a lot of people end up in that sphere, and trust me, that's what you realize, like, oh, okay, I went a bit too far, let's pull it back. You want to love what you do every day. Bottom line, right? That's why we want to freelance. That's why we want to have control over our income and the life that we want, so that we can choose, right? At the cost of all the uncertainty and everything else, but it is our choice, right? And that you can't buy. So there are boundaries, lots of it, right? And who here has not heard about boundaries before? Just give a hands up. No shame. I just want to really understand so I know whether I need to explain things further. Okay, anyone has not heard of the term boundaries before? Everyone good? Has everyone heard of it? If you heard of it, just give me a thumbs up. Okay, Andy's here. Good. All right, Ian's here. All right, so everyone has heard of it before, has some preface. Okay, good. Shafiq gave a thumbs up in the chat. All right, got it. So yeah, great. So everyone's heard about boundaries. I won't spend too much time explaining as well. So what I would say is boundaries essentially is this little bubble around yourself that says whatever it's internal is, yes, I'm okay with it. Anything that's external from that is like, oh yeah, it's too far, right? So understanding your boundaries has a lot of benefits. And these were some things that I talked to a lot of people about, and everyone has felt very similarly as well. And this is really what creates a healthier work-life balance for them. First of all, if you have boundaries, you set boundaries yourself in terms of your time and your energy, you have improved emotional health, right? So you feel, let's say, less irritated all the time. You feel less like, days where you feel like, oh, I really am so tired, I can't do anything, I just need to lie down. So you have an improved emotional state, let's say. Improve relationships, because let's say sometimes, and this happens to everyone, right? You deal with a client, and then sometimes they're like, oh, they call you at like 8 p.m. or like sometimes 11 p.m. or 1 a.m. and expect you to answer the phone. You're like, that's like, eating into your professional boundaries, right? You're like, don't call me then. I prefer if you keep calls to, let's say, like 6 p.m. That's where I'm still working. Anything past that, please drop me a message. If it's urgent, I'll call you, for example. So that's setting the boundary. And that, I think, improves the relationship, because that means the party that offends would do it less, and the party that gets offended will not be irritated as much. So you guys will have improved working relationship afterwards, right? Because there's an understanding, and that helps. Clear expectations for others. So people will know how to manage you and how you like to manage them as well. So that helps with the predictability of things. Decrease stress, because once you know where the line is, you know whether you're crossing it or not. So you don't have to worry too much about those. Improve self-care capabilities. You learn how to take care of yourself, and for others, they can take care of themselves as well. I think, yeah, the question of respect, right? Respect from others. Sorry, my fat thumb's here again. Respect from others, and also self-respect for yourself. Promotes autonomy, because when you have boundaries, yeah, you're navigating in a sea of bubbles with people with other boundaries as well, right? So just imagine a bunch of bubbles in the water. No one is breaching any of those boundaries, but we are kind of like joined together there. And I think that's a clump of bubbles is where you want to be in terms of, let's say, your relationships and how you treat your boundaries, right? And of course, what's up burnout? That's part of the emotional health side of things, right? So a lot of benefits to setting boundaries, but I think not many of us really think about setting those boundaries, because usually in a day job, it's kind of governed for you, right? Depending on how flexible your boss, your department, or your organization is. But typically, if you're working for someone, to some degree, it's already set by the hierarchy, right? So the person that's above you will set, let's say, your working structure, how you report things and all that, for example, it's already pre-governed or preset for you. Yeah. So in short, setting boundaries allows you to create space for yourself, to thrive. That's what you want that little bubble for, right? You don't have a boss or colleague anymore, so you need to champion your own space. You need to take care of yourself. You need to make sure that you don't burn out. You need to make sure that you don't go too far, or you don't push each other's boundaries as well. You need to be the one to keep watch of all these things. Okay. So let's define the type of boundaries that, let's say, that you should draw. And this is where we're going to start diving into all the materials already, right after this. So boundaries, I would mention, first of all, time boundaries. So let's say your working time, your working hours, personal time. So when's your personal time? Like personal time meaning you time, meaning the times where you're by yourself, for yourself, your own privacy, everything. Social time, meaning let's say with friends. So you hang out with friends, colleagues, or your clients, some of you. Family time. So this is referring to time you're not spending alone. Could be with your immediate family, could be with your parents, grandparents, uncle, aunties, so on and so forth, right? Balance it based on your ideal. And also energy boundaries. So typically, I would say in 3 very large categories, you have recharging activities. So the things that you do that fills you up with a lot of energy, it sparks that joy in you. The things that you go to do that makes you feel like, oh, today's a good day. So some of you could be sports. It could be like for me, it's big time, it's cooking. You can probably tell by my size, I like cooking. So I tend to eat the things I cook. So not the best thing, but it does spark a lot of joy because when you create something that you like, for example, it helps. So recharging activities, I would say spacing out activities as well. So sometimes that's really useful. And what you use the spacing out time for. So this doesn't mean you just literally sit down and do nothing, or just lie down and stare at the ceiling. Doesn't have to mean that. But it could be just things that you do to space out and not think about things, right? You don't worry about anything. You're not focusing on anything. You are just allowing yourself to cruise for a bit, right? So it creates that little bit of rest time for yourself mentally. So examples of this, let's say some people I know, they mention ironing a lot, right? So when they are ironing clothes, they're really not thinking about anything. Some will listen to podcasts, sure, and that makes it stimulating. But I know some people just iron clothes, not think about anything, and to them that is their mental rest. Because the whole time is just kind of autopilot. They don't think about anything, no work, no worries, nothing. Right? So that's spacing out activities. Draining activities. So these are the things, even though you enjoy, takes energy away from you. So let me give you an example. I know for a lot of people, let's say gaming is something that they would do. So if you play games, right? If you, especially MMORPG, like who here plays games? Like it could be any game. It could be Candy Crush, mobile games, anything. Who plays games here? Just a show of hands or a thumbs up. Okay, Nabila does. Muzaffar does. Muti does. Jillian does. Okay, yeah, so quite a few gamers here, right? So now gaming, if you are competitive or you're trying to be competitive when you're playing games, I would say that's a draining activity, right? Because usually, especially if your teammate is like feeding or something, you're going to be like, oh, no, this is not going to be a fun thing anymore. It's going to be a competitive thing, right? You're going to start wanting to win and all that. And that whole adrenaline rush, by the time you're done gaming, you feel more tired than you started playing. And sometimes you start asking yourself like, oh God, why did I decide to game? I was supposed to be resting. Why am I doing this to myself? So that is an example of a draining activity. Some people as well, it could be, let's say, if you are, again, competitive, let's say in physical sport, it could be marathons, it could be training, let's say like gym time. Exercise does recharge you, but if you're being very competitive, let's say you're trying to beat your personal record or something like that, oh, that's gonna like really take a lot of you because it takes a lot of mental energy to do what you did, right? So that again is a draining activity. Of course, work is a draining activity. Even though let's say it's work that you like doing, understand it still takes energy away from you because you need focus, you need to make sure you deliver things, and there's a slight pressure that goes along with it. That's how you define a draining activity. All right. So I want you guys to give examples now. So let's say work time. Who wants to volunteer to talk about the times that they work? So I give an example. For me, my work time, I start working around, let's say 8 a.m. every day. So 8 a.m. and I close around 11 p.m. typically lah. So that's my work cycle, but it's not that I don't do things in between. Like in between, I cook, I clean, I do other things as well. It's not I'm working like literally sitting in my chair from 8 a.m. until 11 p.m. But the times that I receive calls and all that, I'm on standby within those hours lah, right? So for Shafiq, it's 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Ah, okay, cool. Who else wants to share? Like, what's your typical working hours? Yeah, Muzaffar's thinking, you need to calculate, all the late nights and all that, do you need to edit?
Yeah, it actually depends on the project that I'm with. I think recently I shot a music video, and my working hours and the call time was we wanted everyone, the crew, to be at 8 a.m. be in the location, and then we ended up, I think for 2 days we ended up until 3 a.m. So it's kind of like, if for those who are very familiar with production, it's kind of pretty normal to work really late hours and graveyard hours. So yeah.
Yeah, and until the job's done, right? So it's basically when you're allowed to
Yeah.
go home.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't miss that. I used to do I used to help out because I used to be helping out the producer on set. So I'm the one that just make sure that they the right angle for the shot and all that. So I understand, man. Like, oh, it's when you're busy, you're really busy. When you're not busy, it's really chill. So okay. But cool. Thanks for sharing that, man. Let's see, who else has not like spoken yet? Abi Adianda. So what would be your like typical working hours for you? Are you there, Abi? No, then okay. How about Jillian? Jillian, are you there? Jillian Simon, is it?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Honestly, I don't really have a set time, but typically I work between 10 to 6 p.m. and sometimes at night. Because like sometimes at night you have like that creative fuel coming in. So yeah.
Okay. So when you mentioned at night, is that like a 3 a.m. thought sort of thing, or?
Maybe sometimes, but I think it's normally like after dinner kind of thing. So maybe like 9, 10 p.m.
Okay, cool. So like your defined work hours for yourself is between 10 to 6, but sometimes when inspiration hits after dinner, that's kind of where you get to work as well, lah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, cool. Thanks for that, Shilin. Thanks for that.
No worries.
Alrighty. So as he says, hers is 9 to 6 or 8 to 5. Oh, okay. So it's that same bracket. I guess whether it's 1 hour later or earlier only. Okay, cool. And Muzaffar also gets your after dinner inspiration thing. Yeah, so that's what my after time until like 11 p.m. usually is. Like, I would make sure I stop, like official workday stops before dinner time. But yeah, sometimes while you're eating and all that, like you talk to people and suddenly you get an idea like, oh gosh, write it down, go back and then you start working on the thing as well. So Mustafa says, okay, those nighttime creativity cravings. Yeah, Nabila gets it as well. Yeah, we get it. It's a creative thing, it really is. Oh, all right, cool. Yeah, so the nighttime inspiration or like the shower thoughts thing, it's like suddenly like, oh gosh, this brilliant, I need to like rush out of the shower and write it down somewhere. Yeah, cool. But you see, that's kind of like where it's kind of where I think where the conversations about boundaries kind of comes into play as well, right? Because you can see how that might be a tendency to where we allow ourselves to like drain out completely. Because it's like when you act on those thoughts always, it can be a bit tiring still, as much as it's like stimulating and we enjoy it, it still does drain us, right? So coming back to this one. So that's kind of why I was curious to see what you guys' working hours were like for yourself, how you shape it around for yourself, for example. So yeah. Oh, cool. Sorry, I see Abi has replied here. So I still adjust my working hours based on the project's urgency. No strict pattern yet. Understand lah. Can. So that's the thing. I think if let's say you are more like on a retainer basis, right? So give you guys some insight on how I work. I have a lot of clients where it's retained for let's say a certain number of copies or articles per month, that I would write for them already. So this one is like auto cruise. It's understood that it's like a 1-year contract. So I know every month I'll be working on this client. So that one is where I can gauge my that's how I gauge my time. But at the same time, I do have like, burst projects, right? Let's say for website revamps, they need copies for the website. I need to like size it and all that. So that's where the extra time might come in. And also let's say like, on the front of talent acquisition and all that, usually it's based on the hiring cycles. So let's say the hiring period will be between June and let's say up until August. So for those 2 months, I know it's gonna be a bit more intense. I need to plan my time around the clock so that I can extend that, but I also make sure it's within my tolerable work hour limits so that I know beyond this, I won't burn out. But it took me a while to find out where that was. Until then, I was just allowing myself to like take project basis until I realized like, oh my gosh, one day I was just so stressed. I'm like, okay, that's a bit far. Let's not do so much sales next month. So, okay, Hannah has mentioned here. For me, it's not the work time, but the hours put in. Okay, so I can do 4 to 5 intense hours of work. Then I had to stop because I get brain fried. Oh my God, Hannah, that is literally me. Like, I think it'll make sense later when you see the structure. It's already in your worksheet, but don't look at it yet. Don't spoil the fun. Yeah, it's, I think what they call work blocks, right? You work in blocks. So like 4 to 5 hours is like crazy intense. But once you're done, you sit back here like you have no thoughts. Nothing goes through your head. Like nothing can go through your head. Yes. Yeah, nothing can go through because you already spent it entirely. And you're like, okay, now I need to do the things that recharge me. So that I can continue to work like maybe, but not now, maybe like in 20 minutes or within an hour. And then you get back to it a little bit and then you wrap up and it's the next work day the next day. Right. So yeah, I totally get the burst. But that's the thing, so what you can see from what everyone has shared, right? And I think, and by the way, thanks for everyone's participation, right? This is one of the best rooms I've had so far for this kind of topic, because usually people are very private about these things because they don't like to share, but I really appreciate you guys being so open to like share with each other and to learn. I think that's great. So if you do scroll up from the chat, right? If you guys are reading that as well, everyone works very differently. Right? So let's say the demands of the field that you're in, because all of you are from very different professions, I'm aware there are digital marketers, performance marketers, creatives here as well. Some of you are also in like, let's say corporate communications, very different fields, very different demands from your clients, or let's say from your place of work, right? So for example, Abi could be more on a project basis, like Muzaffar as well on a project basis. So you don't really get to govern what your day-to-day would look like because it's not really routine. So then you kind of have to plan, let's say, the tolerable limit for one period of time. Let's say if it's a 6-month project, how are you going to plan your time in between? It's kind of changes from project to project, right? So it can be hard to define boundaries for those areas, especially when it comes to how we're going to spend your time. It really changes based on seasons, but you need to know what your limits are as well. So like, let's say you really won't work past 8 p.m. as a rule, like serious work, you're not going to work past 8 p.m. You got to honor that for yourself, right? Because if you don't do it, then the consequence will be burnout. Your body will tell you that it's done, right? So you need to be able to learn how to manage it. So like for Hannah and myself, for people who work in bursts, like we have routine tasks, but our workday is like, we know our effective hours, we got to sit glued to the chair for those 4 to 5 hours to get the maximum productivity that we can churn out for us to feel good about what we've done, let's say, right? So for people like us, we really need to plan the blocks of the day and make sure within that time, there's no interruptions. So the way we structure it will be, let's say, if you're taking calls, meetings, you push it after the block or before the block or things like that. But within then, you take no calls and no meetings, right? So yeah, it'll structure very differently for everyone. So as a time, let's say a boundary, right? So don't think about your schedule yet. Just as a boundary. So you can open up your worksheet again, the one you downloaded earlier, the PowerPoint slide. I want you guys to think about your time boundaries because you got literally 168 hours per week, right? So I want you to divide your time. This is not to say your energy, but just literally what is feasible for you to spend in terms of time per week, right? How much time do you want to spend on work, right? So work could include networking also. So you're going out to meet people for business conversations, that is work. Okay, so networking, your admin tasks, meaning like, some people say it's therapeutic for them to do their accounting. Please, no such thing as accounting is therapy. Okay, don't lie to yourselves. The admin work, the paperwork sorting and all that, it's also considered work because you would be facing the monetary stress and things like that. As much as it could be like a zone out thing to you, subliminally, there's still that messaging that tells you that you're still working while you're doing it, right? So factor that in for your work hours spent per week, all right? Your personal times. So I would say your solo hobbies, the things that you do by yourself. For example, if you are into like crocheting, if you do, let's say, cooking by yourself, journaling, watching Netflix, that's also considered your own personal time, right? Because you're just chilling, watching Netflix and nothing else. Personal time, the things that you want to do by yourself, how many hours of that do you want to see per week? Social time. So social hobbies, let's say if you're into like futsal, badminton, just hanging out with friends, catching up, chilling out at cafes, going to makan with each other, going to have like grab dinner and stuff like that. All the social time, how much time do you want to spend there? Right? And I'm not using the word need, right? I'm using the word want. So again, think about what you really want, really introspect and think about it, and write it down here. Okay. And family time. Now, this doesn't mean you still answer phone calls and all that while you're with family. This means focus time with your family. How much of that do you want? Now, again, I don't know your personal lives and what that situation will be. I'll, definitely keep that to yourselves if you're not comfortable sharing as well. But I know some people, let's say they probably aren't too close to family, it's not too important. It's okay. Think about how much time you want to spend the 168 hours per week. You can spend it here as well. If you don't really like hanging out with friends, you like being by yourself as well. 1, 2, and 3, right? So how we distribute it, you don't have to fill in everything or divide it equally among each. Just be really honest with yourself and just close your eyes for a moment and think of your ideal week. What would that look like and how would you spend those 168 hours for the week that you really want? Right? That you think limit wise, it won't be pushing yourself, but it's like you're pushing yourself a little bit, but it's fairly comfortable. That's kind of like all the rest time you need, how much time you want on yourself. At the same time, I know some people can just like slam 100 hours on working. That's what I want to do. I really want to earn a lot of money. That can totally be you too. No judgment. This is really individual to individual. Again, you are your own inner champion. Whatever it is that you want to do for yourself, be honest about it, right? And write it down here. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys like another 3 minutes to go through this, okay? So take 3 minutes to reflect. I'll be right here. I'm just going to grab some water, going to have a drink behind the scenes. But any questions, feel free to ask me, or if you need me help to clarify or to guide you through as well, let me know, okay? So take the next 3 minutes. The time is now 1:27, so 1:30, okay? 1:30, I'll come back to give a check on this, and then we'll move on to the next one, which will be your energy boundaries, and I'll take you guys through that. But I really want you guys to calculate the time first. Okay, this one's a bit more mathematical, so take your time. Any questions, again, you can ask via chat or you can unmute yourself. I'll be right here. Okay, I'm just gonna mute myself and drink some water for a bit. Okay, is everybody done? Just give me a thumbs up if you are. Okay, Muzafar's good. Is everyone else doing okay? Muti, SD, Kiswa, Hana. Okay, Nabila's done as well. Okay, Abi. Jillian's good. Ita's good. Okay. Shafiq's good too. All right. Does anybody need more time? Just raise your hand if you need more time. Nobody yet? Alrighty. If we're all Gucci, then let's move on to the next part. Okay, because again, like, this thing, it can change with you as well. Like, feel free to modify this for yourself as you go along. Everyone will change a little bit lah. It's natural as you continue to work and depending on number of clients and all that, it'll change. Allow it to change, and just be honest with yourself about it as you go along. Okay. Very much like the next one. So energy boundaries. Now, this is something you can't really quantify, right? But what I want you to do is to understand the tools in your kit, right, that you can use to manipulate the kind of energy that you have to go around with, right? So to recap the 3 types of like energy boundaries you need to draw for yourself, what would be your recharging activities, spacing out activities, and your draining activities, right? So how it works again, draining, anything that takes away energy from yourself, spacing out anything that kills time without draining or giving you energy, which is just nice to just cruise along. Because sometimes you're really amped up, you don't want that. You want to be able to like chill, right? Recharging activity. So anything that lights you up that is not work. Okay. I know I've done this to myself as well. I say like, but I like the things that I do. I like working. So it does recharge me. And I end up burning out. So it really is. And it's something that we try to tell ourselves that we'll love doing, but honestly, it's totally different. We need to have that space, right? So I think perhaps what would be good to start, how I recommend starting with this, because I've worked on this with like a few people before. Draining activities is usually where we're gonna start. So things like, let's say, working, right? But don't just say working, break it down. So for example, if you are in production, is it the video editing, the shooting time, really list things out. It also could be things like having to, this is kind of funny, but it's from a previous class, okay? So someone literally mentioned having to visit my in-laws drains energy from me because I need to put up all their condescending questions, their snide remarks about my job, things like that, right? So, I mean, if that does drain your energy, by all means, write it down as well. Whatever you can think of that you feel like, yeah, that takes away energy from me, and it could lead me to burnout, right? Emotionally or like physically, energy-wise, anything that drains you at all, make sure you write it down here. Is usually a good place to start. Second part is, oh, Geeta had to drop off. We'll definitely check out the recording afterwards. Okay, Geeta. Yeah, I know it's the middle of the workday, so do what you need to do, Geeta. It's all right. But thanks for letting me know. I appreciate it. And thanks for joining us. And hope you've taken away something from the first part of the talk, and do check out the rest of the half, okay? Okay. So next thing you want to look at is the recharging activities, I would say. Because usually this, right after you're done with draining, you feel like, okay, I need to recharge myself. So this, a lot of times what I've heard would be, usually along the lines of hobby. So some people say like gardening, if they like, growing succulent plants, it's one thing I've heard. Also could be like for me, cooking, cleaning. Strangely enough, I like cleaning. I don't know if it's an adulting thing nowadays, but I enjoy using my vacuum. So something mundane, but I do enjoy doing that. So that does recharge me because after I'm done, I feel good. I don't feel stressed. I feel relaxed. I feel ready to go. Right. So that's kind of the feeling you want to get after doing these activities. So anything that lights you up, whether it's, let's say, going for a spa. I know some ladies that like going for spa, massage, or facials, doing your hair, painting your nails, let's say, right? Something that people could feel good about, as long as it's that. Yeah. Mustafa says, I'm more excited for a new home appliance too. Hell yeah, man. I think it's an adulting thing, man. Like just got a new drill for myself as well. Haven't used it yet, but I need to use it to like hang up some paintings at home. So, but yeah, I think you get like new appliances, like dude, the kitchen especially, you know, like new air fryer and all that, all feels good. But I try not to rely on that too much because it's not an activity that I can do without spending. So got to be careful crossing that line. Okay, so Lena says, love decluttering. Really helps clear the energy when everything is back to its intended place. Yes. Like honestly, like the organization feels so good. That's why like the cleaning jobs and all that, when you feel the space afterwards, like yeah, that recharges, like that helps a lot. So again, recharging activities, anything that is not work, that helps you feel really ready to go right once you've done it, right? Makes you feel really good. Spacing out activities. So again, anything that kills time without draining or giving you energy. And a question I've got in a past task was, why would you want to do something that's not recharging or draining you? And I use the example of, let's say, a battery or power bank, right? Sometimes it's good, or heck, I'll just use my phone here, right? So I just put it in front of my face so you can see it on camera. Like a lot of times, if you just use and drain your battery all the time, the battery itself is not going to last very long, right? It'll maybe last you a while. It'll burn out way quicker than if you sometimes leave your phone on standby, right? Leave it on standby, don't do anything with it. Allows it to just exist and be, and doesn't burn out, right? Or it lasts you a lot longer. So similarly for yourself, sometimes you don't want to always be recharging, always draining. I think especially the creatives in the room, right? A lot of times you benefit from just having space to just be. So some people I know, I join them, so I'm one of them too, I guess. Would like to do activities that just allow you to chill, right? So we don't talk, like legit, just sit down, drink tea or drink coffee, and just chill on my balcony. That's all I do. I don't check my phone. I don't, you know, clean my inbox or anything. I don't do anything but just drink tea and chill. And Hannah loves that too. Yes, got my kaki here. So for Indonesian friends, kaki is like, you know, we vibe by doing similar things, or we have that thing that we do that we relate to. So it's like your buddy. Yeah, so like drinking tea and just chilling and just existing, right? You're not reading a book, you're not doing anything, but just that activity of chilling helps. So it just calms you down. So it's not to say it's giving you energy, it keeps you calm, it keeps you centered, and it allows you to just focus without taking away energy and giving you no energy in return as well, right? So that's honestly something I think as a freelancer, because you're always working, you're always running, you're always working, you're always thinking about the financials at the back of your head. It's good to have that space where you allow yourself to just disengage for that moment and just be, right? Because that would really help a lot with maintaining that boundaries. Shafiq said scrolling Insta on YouTube. I said, bro, that is not spacing out, man. I appreciate the honesty, Shafiq, but dude, that is not spacing out. That's not healthy for you, man. Because honestly, I'll give you a reason why, for like a scientific study, right? So how many of you have heard the term doom scrolling? I'll type it in chat. How many of you have heard of the term doom scrolling? Like just a show of hands, if you have, or thumbs. Huh? No one has heard of doom scrolling. Oh, okay. Hannah has, Lisa has, Muti has as well. Okay, there you go. So okay, some of us have heard of doom scrolling. So do it every day. Sis, don't laugh, sis. Okay. Hold on. So that's not spacing out. No, it's not spacing out. I'll explain why. So as he says, spacing out, daydreaming, watching Netflix, YouTube. Okay, daydreaming, yes. YouTube, Netflix. That one I'll talk about it. So all right, there is an actual new line of research being done. I'll revert to my slightly boring stuff. I go very technical, but this is important actually. It's part of the conditioning, let's say. So what you're doing when you're watching content or consuming content, right? Because part of what I do is I help clients to like come up with short TikTok videos and stuff like that as well. So I know on the back end what we're trying to design. It shapes you to Muti says doom scrolling is part of my job, I guess. Oh yeah, social media manager, right? So yeah, we're part of the culprits. We're doing it research. We call it research. So it's part of our job. We're not spiraling out of control. We are doing research. But okay. I think for those of you who want to like, understand the scientific reason why, doom scrolling is actually a triggered response on what they call crap, what was that term? I just had it and it slipped my mind. Oh yes, digital nudging. It's a response to digital nudging. So any social media platform, the engagement tools or features that they have actually condition you to continue to mentally engage with the content. So whether you click like, you click dislike, you not share with your friends, girl, or you're saving it to your list to watch later, for your references, let's say, right, Muti? Where you're saving it to your references for later and all that. It's actually mental work. You're still mentally engaging with something. So it's not spacing out. Spacing out, the definition is you're not engaging with anything, right? So daydreaming, yes, that is spacing out. Staying home and doing nothing, like just chilling, that is spacing out. But when you're scrolling on something, you notice this action. This is literally a response that is triggered by the content. You're literally scrolling and continuing to swipe here and there. So that is actually you being very mentally engaged. So what you'll find a lot of the times in some of these studies is when you're consuming content, you're not passive. You're actually mentally very active. It's very similar to, let's say, as similar to, let's say, going to the gym and like lifting a weight. Is that conscious? It's very intentional movement and very intentional action by yourself. So yeah, that's why they call it doom scrolling, you see, because as you scroll, it makes you want to scroll more and find the next content and the next content and the next content. And that's where, like, for example, you don't have to admit this. I will admit it because like last time part of research, right? I scroll and then like next thing you know, it's been 1 hour already. I've been scrolling on TikTok. Like you don't realize where the time goes. And then you're like, oh, but you feel like crap after that. You're like, oh God, I feel so tired. And I've done no work. Like, good God, this is not good. And then you start judging yourself, right? So that's doom scrolling. For those of you who haven't heard of it yet today. So Hannah says, oh, yeah. So now we know, Shafiq understood, just playing games for me then. But playing games, again, remember the definition is if it's like Sims where it's chill, that can be recharging. But if you're very competitive where you play like, let's say, League of Legends, you play Overwatch or something like that, very intense first-person shooter and all that, that one, there might be a draining activity. So coming back to this, what I want you guys to do now is to try to fill up in your worksheet as complete as possible. The draining activities, this might be kind of long because I think a lot of times we would think about the things that make us lose energy. Oh, Lena has just shared something from Forbes. You should stop checking your phone in the morning and what did it say? Yeah, that's the trap. Honestly, I read that quite recently and that helps. Like I put my phone outside. I don't take it with me into the room anymore. But I used to like keep it there in case clients contact me at night. But stop doing that already. But yeah, what I want you guys to do is fill up the draining activities, the recharging activities, and spacing out activities. I've left this on your files as well, just in case when you refer back, you kind of forgot. Just keep that with you, okay? Right, so take maybe, yeah, I think 2 minutes. You probably have written down some examples as I was talking as well. So just take 2 minutes to have a look through. Any questions, feel free to ask. Unmute yourself if you need to as well, totally fine. And yeah, I'll be here to monitor as we go along, okay? Hannah says, but creative people produce content. How do we still support them but not doom scroll? Okay. Good question, Hannah. I think, because again, you know, like I still succumb to it sometimes. I'm not like superhuman, right? To be honest with you. I don't have like inhumane discipline. I sometimes still catch myself like, oh crap, I am scrolling, I need to stop. I'll set timers for myself. Legit, I'll set timers. So when I start the research cycle, right? Because you need to look for inspiration or like what's trending and stuff like that. I'll set like 20 minutes. So in that 20 minutes, I'll tell myself, I'm not here to consume content that I like. I'm here to research kind of content to produce, let's say, video A or this article. I'm just looking for that, those specific topics and materials for that. And I'll time myself 20 minutes start. I'll just keep searching. So I'll be very active for 20 minutes and then it stops. And I'm like, okay, I disengage. I consolidate, let's say, what I've accumulated so far, derive my points, whatever, and then I produce the content. So I'll do it that way to manage myself, to make sure I don't keep scrolling, because that can be very addictive. And you like suddenly you realize like, oh no, this is really cute, and then you just keep scrolling on that video instead. You click on that creator's profile, you look at like what sort of like other videos they create, and you consume all the content, and then you realize, oh crap, it's been 2 hours. So just prevent myself from spiraling, because I don't have the best self-discipline. That's kind of what I do. Okay, Lena asks, so parking a set time aside, doing it intentionally. Yeah. I think that's what I'll typically recommend. And I try to manage that with my team in the past as well. But I would say you just need to set the time and be very intentional when you're searching. That's kind of how you resist the scroll. I'll use the search bar more than the scroll. So I'll refine my search string as I go along and just keep refreshing that page so I don't keep jumping onto it. Shafiq says, yeah, I realized also, ended up watching animal videos. Dude, that's me too, man. Like you see cat videos like, oh, kryptonite, that goes my work day. So that's why I have to like, okay, like, I see a cat video, like, no, not here for, because IG and TikTok, man, the things that they push you, the moment they know that's your preference, it's like, oh no, this is dangerous, man. I need to disengage. I'm not here for cat videos this time. I'm here to look for this. So that's honestly how I do it, lah. I think that helps with preventing the doom scrolling. So I limit myself literally that way, to make sure I don't keep scrolling for more than 20 minutes at a time. But I'll try to make sure within that 20 minutes, I really, really get what I need, and I back off. Okay, if I complete before 20 minutes, even better. Then I reward myself with like a 5-minute tea break or something. Okay, cool. So we've got more than 2 minutes going already here. So again, feel free to continue updating this as you go along, as you discover more about yourselves and your work preferences as well. This will change, and yeah, again, allow it to change as you go along. Okay. Now we just finished 2 modules. Does anyone need like a toilet break or like a 5-minute break? If you do, just raise your hand or give me a thumbs up. If you don't, you can just not respond. That's totally fine too. Does anyone need a 5-minute break? Hannah says yes, please. Nabila also raise hand. Okay, sure, because I know it's very mentally engaging. So let's take a 5-minute break. We'll start at 1:49. So come back by 1:55. All right. Again, if you guys have any questions, I'm literally just behind the screen here. I'm not gonna move the whole time, even though my camera might be off. Any questions, you can just unmute yourself or type in the chat, and yeah, I'll be right here. Okay, but take the 5 minutes if you need. Just refresh yourself, refill your coffee, use the washroom, wash your face a little bit, and I'll see you guys back at 1:54. Okay. Then we'll go through the next 2 topics where I'll be mostly you guys talking. Cool. So I just stop sharing for a moment and come back here. All right, cool. I'll see you guys. I'll still be right here. So just text or unmute yourself if anything, okay? Okay, let's go, Muzaffar.
Sure. So let me share my screen.
Sure.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
So I just did what like Tafi did because most of the days, most of the week, it's really unpredictable in terms of the project basis. But usually the start of the week on Monday, I'll have my morning routine. So because I live alone and I have 2 cats, so I have to do all the cat dad stuff first beforehand, clean and whatnot, give them the food and and everything. But usually after that 10 a.m. I will get like a cup of tea and I will sit down and kind of like plan my tasks that I want to do for the rest of the day. And then from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. before lunch, I'll go for client acquisition. So basically, I'll try to find clients on social media and stuff like that, or any potential brands that I willing to work with me and my company. And then 12 p.m. I'll have a short eat. Like I'll just order something from Grab and then just like take it out and then just eat as fast as I can because generally I'm a very fast eater and a very fast speaker. So
Right.
and after a meeting, then I'll go back to client acquisitions. Sometimes I'll call on like potential leads or cold leads that I have or like some clients that I've emailed or talked to in the past few weeks, and I'll just call them up and kind of discussing and negotiating some stuff. And then from 2 p.m. To 3 p.m., I kind of build proposals based on like the clients that I would want to work on, like in the potential near future. And then 3 p.m., 4 p.m., updating my portfolio. So basically the company's portfolio, like the website and whatnot, the company's portfolio and whatnot.
Okay. So what happens after like 5 p.m. for you? Like, do you have your chill time later? Do you play with your cats?
Usually 5, I would try to go for 1 hour of gym, 5 to 6. And then the thing about me is that it's very hard for me to kind of stop working. It's very rare to see me just like to calm down and chill down and just like sit and not do nothing, because in my mind I'm always kind of active in a way. And sometimes I'll be thinking like, maybe this person or this client wants to blah blah blah. I'll start drafting like messages and like ideal potential certain things that they prefer, or what's their specifications and stuff like that. So it's like like for me, I'll probably stop working around like 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. Maybe I got used to it during the production life, so I don't know. So that's essentially like what I usually do. Like probably 11 to 12, I'll just play a little bit of games and then just go to sleep, and then rinse and repeat. And usually, my activities of work would actually stretch to the weekends as well, if the client wants me to be on site and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay. Then what do you do to regulate energy then? Like, do you find yourself like burning out sometimes, or like how often does it happen for you? Like honestly, like
To be honest, I am burned out every day. Because like I'm always constantly thinking about like not just the creative side of things, but the business side of things. Because how am I supposed to get monetary gain or monetary value with the company, or how am I supposed to build the capital and stuff like that? And like as like a new business owner, this is kind of new to me, and like I'm just like thinking 24/7. And then like but I do have couple of my friends that work with me as a contract basis in terms of like finding and acquiring new clients lah. So they'll be like the middleman lah, essentially lah.
right.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was just recently that I acquired one of my friend that he really wants to like be more in the creative space and kind of like acquire like clients and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, maybe it kind of helps me unload a bit of the stress that I have. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good, man. But yeah, thanks for sharing so honestly as well. I think that, yeah, I mean that's honestly the reality, right? I mean the burnout, everything, like, dude, I feel you, man. Like especially when the money question comes in, like you start counting number of clients and they're like, good for now, but how long is this gonna last? Like you need to.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, I think for me, it's just like, yeah, sure, I get this client, probably one-off projects or retainers. Then what am I gonna do to sustain? Because like when you gave out the list, right, and the set goal of like the income and whatnot, right? I kind of thought to myself, I've kind of thought to myself like a long time ago that I have a specific goal structure in terms of like the how much I should acquire a year. And that always plays in the question of my mind every time I go out or would, like drive and everything. So it's just like, I'm a very kind of like passionate and hungry person when it comes to like doing work. But in terms of like kind of like building up a rapport or business with like people is a bit hard for me because I never came into the business background, but I'm slowly learning it. Yeah, slowly.
Yeah, I mean, you're 2 years in, man. It's something you will definitely figure out. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of time thing. So yeah, but it's cool. Thanks for sharing your journey with us, man. Appreciate
No
that.
problem.
Right, cool. So to raise the point, I'll go back to the slides in a minute, but what I realized the tendency is for a lot of us, right, is what I've heard for a lot of schedules is really work, right? You think about the work schedule first, which is totally normal to think of. It's totally what you normally think of first. So I anticipated this really because again, I've done this training with a few people before, similar material anyways. So was that the week that you think you should have, or the week that you really wanted to have? Right? Because I think the default that people would go to when they're planning their time or planning their timetables, they think about what they should be doing. Right? Because the image in your head is like, okay, if I want this, I should be doing this. Then you plan like, okay, I'm gonna keep working, find clients, do sales, do the delivery, and then organize portfolio, rinse and repeat until everything is done, until I get my goal, right? So that's what we think we should be doing. But I said the week that you really want to have, right? So it's something that a lot of us would definitely go through, right? That feeling of, getting burnt out. And that stems from doing a lot of things that we feel that we should be doing, but not enough of the things that we really want to be doing, right? So the week that we have ideally should balance out. If I were to go back to that structure, oops, sorry, I think Atek's bouncing in and out of the room. If I were to go back on the structure, remember this one here? What did we do before this? We did the time and energy boundaries, right? So hang on, let me share that other document with you. So you have a different view. Okay, remember we did this, right? We did your time boundaries and we did your energy boundaries, right? So these three are meant to be used together. Your time boundaries, energy boundaries, fit that into your ideal week, right? So this would be the answer to really managing that energy level, because burnout is not from working all the time. It's having not enough energy at the end of the day, right? So that's why you feel that feeling will always creep out on you if you don't manage your energy well enough, right? So that energy boundary is what you really need. Think about the types of activities you do. Make sure that you have enough spacing out activities and recharging time throughout the week. You need to see this on your calendar, essentially, right? It has to be here. So a lot of times we put all these things here. You notice all the activities you guys put down is literally all of these things. And I use the example as to slightly debate also lah. It's a point, can. So can't just put all the draining activities that takes energy away from you. You need to factor in the other two activities. So mine's all this. This is technically the one that gives me energy. This is what keeps me organized, but it's work. But I didn't have any space out time. This technically cooking is active. Eating is where I space out a little bit. So like 15 minutes, right? So you need to identify what these activities are. And let's say if yours is during dinner time that you spaced out, that could be it, right? So write that out as a spacing activity. So this is where you really get to test whether you understand your boundaries or not, right? So this is where you see it on paper. Because all the things you write down here, your your number of hours working per week, actually count it. Actually count it here, right? Do you really spend that many hours working? Do you really spend that many hours on your personal time stuff that you wanted to do here? Your social activities, how many hours do you set aside? Do you see that many hours on your schedule every week, right? Family time. Do you really see that in, if you're Shafiq, for example, you got family you need to take care of, for example, do you have that time reflected on your calendar in a week? Right? Because you're 168 hours, you need to make sure it's there. Okay. So reflect back again after this, on all the things you've written down throughout the week. Make sure the hours line up and your energy activities are reflected throughout the week as well. So you know how to manage your energy so you don't burn out, right? The key thing I want you to think of here again is don't listen to the nagging voice that says, what should you be doing all the time? Listen to the voice that tells you what kind of lifestyle do you want to work towards, right? Let's say how busy you are every week, how much time you spend working every week. Don't think about these hours in terms of like, okay, if I work more hours, means I will do better. If I spend more time resting, I would feel more energized. Not necessarily, right? Because sometimes if you rest too much as well, you feel lethargic or you feel like, oh, too much. I need too spaced out to be effective to go back to work. You need to start your engine slow again, let's say, right? Think about how effective those hours are, right? So don't think so much about how many hours you're doing something for. There's always a margin of diminishing return after a number of hours, right? So I know my work block past 4 to 5 hours, very much like siapa tadi, Hannah, right? Yeah, I think it was Hannah. So like Hannah, after 4 to 5 hours, my brain will just fry. I know if I try to push myself to continue working after those 5 hours, ain't gonna happen. So might as well, I use the time after that to do what recharges me or to space out a little bit and then recharge. And I go back to work later at night. Right? So that's kind of how I play with it. Right? So don't think about working more or doing this more. Tell yourself, this is how many hours I want to work a week. Make those hours as effective as you can be. Right? So make it an efficiency game for yourself rather than a time period kind of game for yourself. That will work a lot better. Okay. So what I want you guys to think about and how I want you guys to tweak your schedules when you go back after this, because we have a bit of time. Usually I would like to give you guys like 15 minutes to redo and then we go another round. But because we're a little bit short on time for this round, because you guys have been participating so much, I didn't anticipate this much participation. So you guys have been great. I want you guys to go back and really reflect on these two things first, right? So your time boundaries, energy boundaries, and then you fill in your schedule. Right? So I recommend it being done in this order because if you just plan your work week like this, right, your ideal week, you're going to discount everything else. It's going to be just about work purely because that's how we're wired to do to work essentially. Right? But again, as a freelancer, you take care of yourself. You provide your own office parties, your own little benefits, everything else. It's all you, right? So think about a week you really want to have. How much time you want to spend, what activities you really want to do. Make sure it's here. Because you need to keep yourself happy, you need to keep yourself recharged in the right frame of mind to continue working. And you don't want to end up hating what you do because you do it all the time, you feel burned out, you start resenting it. Like the more you sit in your chair to start working, like, it's work again, then that's no different from a job. Which is when you might start going back to this slide here, right? Where you start thinking about why you're freelancing, what's the target really, what do you really want? You start questioning all this again. So that is why all these 4 things are in one packet for you guys, because I want this to be a board where you reflect and really think and recalibrate yourself as you go along. Okay. So that is the scheduling part. I'll stop sharing my screen first. Everyone following? Everyone all good? If you are, just give me a thumbs up if you're still here. And that's good. Nabila's good. I saw one from Muzaffar. Okay, Lina's good. ST is good. Muti, Abi, are you guys following? Fadila's good as well. Good. Shafiq gives a thumbs up too. Okay, Abi and Muti, are you guys still here? Just give me a thumbs up if you are. Okay, probably away. Tapa. So, okay, moving on to the last part of today, right? The communications part. And I think it's quite heavy so far what we've covered. Sorry, Abi's here. Cool. Okay, let me just share my screen again. Okay, so this side in particular, I want you guys to really remember this. Don't guilt trip yourself. Don't think about the week you should be having. Think about the week you really want to have and build towards that. Try to get closer to the week you really want to have, and you're going to enjoy your work-life balance a lot more when you start really gearing yourself towards the life you want to have, right? So factor in your time and energy boundaries and think about what you really want. Okay, so adjust that in your own time. Any questions, feel free to let me know. Okay, now last module for today, we're going to do a lot of role playing here. See, so cultivating communication etiquette. So fun fact, communication is one of the biggest challenges of freelancing while working remotely. Okay, and remember the loneliness part, you guys are not alone. It's the biggest factor, right up there with communicating and collaborating with people. So this is I can't remember what was this book for, but it was very recent. I think somewhere around 22, if I'm not mistaken, late part of 2022. So challenges of freelancing and working while remote, loneliness, collaborating, distractions at home. So for example, Mustafa, I know the cats can be very tempting sometimes, you know, they come and catch you and all that, like, oh, bad for a while. Staying motivated, another one, because, you know, it can get hard sometimes. Time zone challenges, which is, I think, what I asked about FT, right? You know, if you need to report during German time, but if their morning is your afternoon, still not too bad. You know, you just report end of the day instead of beginning of the day. But I know some people, if you have, let's say, got some clients overseas, like in Canada or the US, for example, yeah, then you might face some time zone challenges because maybe you want to rest at night, but you can't. That's another struggle. But communication is so important because that is what will help you shape your boundaries, and also help to build better relationships with your clients. Because once you are closer to your clients, you are able to flow with them quite naturally. It's a bit easier to work together, right? So there are a few modes of communicating, right? So if you're working remotely, it's going to be emailing, texting, voice calls, or video calls. So I want you guys to be honest. Who here is afraid of making calls? Just give me a hands up. So that means video calls or voice calls also lah. Nabila, Hana, wah cepat ni. So far, Muzaffar as well. Okay, yeah. So quite, I know some people have it's a real anxiety. You know, some people call it, they call it what call anxiety. It's a real thing apparently. I also know a lot of like Gen Z buddies. You know, they are very afraid to pick up the phone. It's like after text people, email totally fine, but the moment they have to talk to someone, they'll put on the phone and say like, please don't pick up, please don't pick up, please don't pick up the whole time. And then someone picks like, oh, okay, hi. And then they drain after the call. So it's okay. It's quite natural to be afraid of calls initially, or like you don't like calling as a, let's say a first point of contact. Sorry, Hannah says, I've missed calls from recruiter. It's okay. Won't tell your employer about it. But depends on where you are. That one you can't really take the call if you're directly in front of your boss, right? So different thing. But okay, different modes of communicating while working remotely. There are a few things. There are 3 examples we're going to go through. So it's going to be like really case study. And these are things that if you're already freelancing or you're in a client management kind of role, you would probably see this quite a bit. So just want to see how Aaron reacts. Aaron treats it differently, by the way. And also you haven't, let's say, been client facing, you've been more back-end in your company or your role at the moment. Or if you're a student, for example, you haven't really touched base with work besides your internship. This could be something that opens eyes a little bit. So let's go a few examples. Example number 1. Now, we're role-playing here. So you're in this seat. You are a freelancer, freelance creative for an MNC manufacturing business, working with their marketing department to assist in creating collaterals for an upcoming campaign, right? They have not given you much details, but I expect you to come up with a proposal. Now you need to request for information for proposal, which is urgently needed. Okay, so the task here is to write an email you would send to the client detailing what information you request for. Okay, so a few pointers here, let me point out. So first of all, you're freelance creative. I left it quite ambiguous. So think from your own job perspective. You're working for a MNC manufacturing business. So MNC stands for multinational company. So really big company. And in the manufacturing line. So kind of the the old business, let's say, for an upcoming campaign that they have. So you're working with their marketing department inside, so it's just that one department you're working with. Campaign, haven't given you a timeline, not giving you much detail, but they want you to propose something, right? Which is very common because they're like, we have this campaign coming up, we don't know what to run. We are not creative people. We leave it to you to propose. What is it that you want to put forward? Or what do you think we can do? They have no idea. They have the money, but they have no idea what they want to do. So you need to kind of guide them and get information you need to come up with your proposal, right? So I want you guys to take 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Yeah, 2 to 3 minutes to write the email. You can just type it in the chat here. You don't have to worry about spacing, paragraphing. Just type it in the chat here on how you would send this client an email to detail the information you request for. Okay, so just take 2 minutes. I want to see at least 2 to 3 replies. Okay, so how you would normally handle this kind of situation, just type it in. Don't worry about right or wrong. Everyone handles it differently. We'll go through each example, okay? Yeah, but what we want to cover through these examples is, yeah, just to see different ways of handling this kind of situation. And you don't have to necessarily limit yourself to email. What you ask for in the email could be different. Depends on your style of working. So I'll give you that little caveat. Okay. Cepat-cepat, type in the chat. I know you guys are all very active chatters. Not much to unmute and speak, but you guys are active chatters in this bunch. So I know you guys will be typing away. Okay, give it another minute. Or otherwise, I'll just, if I don't see any, then I'll just ask someone to unmute and then we discuss saja lah. Okay, no answers yet. Is anyone still typing? Just give me a thumbs up or hands up if you are still typing. Okay, Shafiq still typing. Okay, now just give it like another minute. Will that be enough? Yeah, if you're typing elsewhere, you can just like copy and paste it in. That's totally cool. That's totally cool too. Is anyone else typing, or is everyone just hoping that someone else will type for them? ChatGPT, Hana ni, teruk, teruk. But it's quite funny because I know some people actually do this for like those kind of emails, so, but don't so open. It's the future. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Soon it can be, you can chatbot reply everything. Okay, come. Who wants to try first? Hana, do you want to try? You can unmute yourself. Oh, Shafiq has a answer here. Okay, let's read Shafiq's one. Shafiq, you delete lah. Okay, okay.
Hi,
Okay, okay.
Tyler. Uh, I think I might favor saying it instead of texting it.
Sure. Come, let's go.
So this is typically what I do, asking, for example, dear sir or madam, I hope this email finds you well. I'm writing to follow up your request regarding the proposal or the project, and I would like to but before I send it to you, I would like to request some essential information to ensure the smooth progress of our ongoing project and to meet your requirement. Basically, I would ask what are the project objectives to make it clear, and then the scope of work, and also the timeline. I would also request the preferred communications channel if they are preferred to, and also budget and payment terms, because that's also essential, right? And then I would say at the end of the email that I greatly appreciate your cooperation in providing the above information, and the details that you will provide to us will be a valuable guidelines to deliver the best possible results. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, and I would like to assist you and address any uncertainties you may have. Best regards. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that is perfection. That's very professionally done. Yeah, thanks for the yeah, that's a really good reply. But Fadila, what do you do? Yeah, just refresh my memory.
Oh yeah, I'm working in a consulting agency as a communications lead. So basically that's part of my day-to-day work with the clients, to provide any like communications guidelines or any communications assets and products for waste management.
All right, yeah, for the side of waste management. Okay, cool. And you're looking to freelance, is it? Like, is that the purpose of why you're here?
Yeah, definitely, because I don't have any team at the moment, and then I have lots of hierarchy. The hierarchy itself works in different region, basically in Indonesia, and works in different countries. So I think I need to guide my directions by myself, because I usually do the work by myself. I need to just shape my work and shape the timeline. So that's why I keen to learn for freelancing work.
Okay. So freelance, but you're freelancing for comms, right? So like writing PR pieces and things like that, is it?
Yeah, social media, PR pieces, and also media outreach and video.
Okay, and like, do you do it in like any particular languages, like English, Indonesian?
Yeah, English and Indonesian.
All right. Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's a really solid reply. Thanks for that, Fadila.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, hope you guys took notes from that one. That's a really good way to handle. So the way she asked is like, first of all, you start with like your reason, right, for why you're asking for that information. So that usually some clients, if they're traditional, right, they would be very short fused with like, why you asking so many questions? I just need it done. So explain why, ask for what you need, specifically listed out what exactly she needed, and again, just reassure them if they need any more clarity, they can reach out to her. So yeah, very nicely handled in the email. So cool. Let's move on to the next example. Next example, you just received an extremely long 5-page email from your client that is not satisfied with the work. So project's done, delivered already. You've done 2 revisions of the concept so far. And this third concept may seem, they may seem unhappy than with the first 2. And all the feedback so far has been different, but you've not had a record in writing about their feedback, except for this 5-page email right now. How should you respond to the email? This one, just unmute and try. Okay, so let me see, who do I want to ask to bantu with this one? How about Nabila? Do you want to try Nabila? Alamak, ni shy pula. Try lah Nabila, don't worry. None of us say the judge. Again, we're all here to learn together. So if you're not sure how to start also, it's a good time to like talk about it, then we can go to like how this might be handled. But tak apa, if Nabila tak mau, got a bit sleepy, teruk. Then all the more that you should unmute and participate lah. Aduh, okay. How about Let's see. Why have I not called yet? Atep, do you want to try this, Atep? Hello, Atep, are you there?
Yeah, what's the question?
So this example here. So I'll just read back with you. So you've just received an extremely long 5-page email from a client that's not satisfied with the work. So you've done 2 revisions already, 2 revision of concept, meaning like you start over twice. And this third concept, they seem unhappier than with the first 2. So it's not going in the right direction lah. Right, so all the feedback so far has been different, but you haven't recorded down in writing lah, all the feedback so far, except for this 5-page email. So how should you respond to the email?
For example, on the Zoom call, so he can explain by video call.
Ooh, sorry, I thought it's quite robotic coming from your side. I think it's the audio.
Yeah, I will ask the client to talk to Zoom call, to video call with me, and ask him to explain what the revision.
Okay, I got you. So for those of you who maybe struggle to hear that a little bit, what Atep said was he'll ask the client to jump on a Zoom call and ask exactly what they're not happy with and to work it out, right? Is that what you said, Atep?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, cool. Got it. So yeah, I think that is probably one of the better ways you can handle this, honestly, because this sort of situation, I mean, not very common, but happens. I mean, among the 5 years you're working, probably happens once at least. Where they are really not happy with it. You've revised the work, they're still not happy, and you just can't seem to figure out what's not right. So at this sort of time, if you do any written form of communication, yeah, it just doesn't really work out usually. So it's usually best, like what Atef has mentioned, just jump on a call, and just try to talk to them about what they're not happy with, how can we work this out, and how do we proceed from here. And then you have to find out how to remedy the steps. So exactly how you handle that later is different, but I think the right step at this point, definitely give them a call. Don't email already, just call. Right, cool. So thanks for that. That was really, really good. All right, last one before we wrap it up. So please, those of you STP, just stay with me for a little bit longer, right? We're just almost at the finish line already. So last example, a client has been calling you often out of the blue, sometimes past your typical office hours, asking for updates or to bounce ideas with you. And sometimes when you don't pick up, the client gets irritated and complains about it to you about not being professional, not taking care of their needs, let's say, right? And you've not once told the client that you did not like them, you've just kind of been tolerating it at this point until now it's like kind of awkward because you really, really don't like it. And they still keep doing it, you try to avoid their calls and all that, but they know that you're avoiding their calls. So how would you address this challenge? Okay, so let's try Jillian. You want to try this one? Jillian Simon?
Okay, well, with this one, I would either give them a text or call them back, explaining my boundaries. That's for one. But actually with my type of work, which is copywriting and content strategy, I don't really have to be updating them too frequently. So personally, what I do is I would have like a set timeline for the project and meet the timelines. And if I need more time, then I'll just communicate that.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that, Jillian.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So I think at this one, yeah, I know it's the kind of awkward situation. It's not to say uncomfortable or confrontational, like maybe the last one might be a little bit confrontational. But this sort of etiquette usually like exactly as Jillian said. You just need to drop a message or call, to let them know like, hey, if you could, I really appreciate it if let's say you stop calling me past hours, usually I don't respond. I'm not with my phone all the time, but you could just drop me a message and I'll tend to it the moment I get back to my phone. And if it's urgent, I'll give you a call, right? You just gotta trust that I'll do that for you. And yeah, that usually works out after they understand that it's a boundary. Because most of the time they just keep doing because you didn't outright say that, yeah, you're not really okay with this, and what would you prefer instead as a solution? So yeah, that's the communication aspect of it. So I think we covered quite a lot of things. So just to recap what we've kind of talked about throughout this whole session. Basically the first three, you can refer back to your worksheet, right? Where it's talking about the mindset, the right frame of mind to be when you're freelancing. Second part of the talk, again, talking about your boundaries and why that's really important to keep, right? So your energy boundaries, your time boundaries, that really makes sure you stay centered, you don't burn out, and you actually start learning to like the freelance lifestyle with all the difficulties in between as well. Because that's the ultimately, life is balanced. You have hard times, you have times where you feel frustrated, the uncertainty and everything, but you're okay with it. You learn to love it, right? And at the last part, we did talk about the scheduling. So how do you plan your week? Not just the week that you think you should have, but the thing that you read the week, sorry, that you really want to have, because that makes all the difference. From the time you wake up and you sit in your chair and you're actually living the freelancing life that you want, then you sit down and you're like, yeah, it's not a bad week. You actually look forward to it. And that's kind of what you want to maintain, right? Through the time and energy boundaries. They factor into your weekly schedule. And last but not least, definitely what I will try and show through here. I know I rushed through a little bit because we're a little bit short of time and I'm keeping an eye on the clock here. But this is really important for making sure that you maintain good relationships with your clients, because if you have good relationships, you know how to manage your clients well, and they understand your boundaries, you're able to plan more effectively, right? Because usually the unpredictable factor when you're freelancing is the client's style of working and whether that would, let's say, eat into your style of working a lot, right? So let's say they want a lot of revisions, they want it now. Where do you draw the line to say like, okay, I'll do this much, the rest you got to give me a bit more time, right? So being able to have these conversations and knowing how to communicate it with them, choosing the right weapon of choice, whether it's, emailing them professionally, like Fadila mentioned first, whether you should just text them to jump on a Zoom call, like Atat mentioned, to just jump straight to a Zoom call to handle the issue, or just to drop a message or to talk to them, right? In the last case, like Gillian has mentioned, that yeah, this is not urgent. You just need to like text or call them just to explain what you like the boundary to be, and slowly you work towards making it better. And that would again make sure that you don't start thinking like, okay, I don't like dealing with clients, so I'm just gonna go back to an office job. And again, if you go back to the reasons why you decided to freelance in the first place, maybe it's not what you wanted, right? So hopefully this session has given you more insight into what it's like, freelancing, and what you could look forward to if you haven't moved into it already, or if you're already here, how you could probably make it a bit better for yourself, right? Or for those of you who are in between, where you have a full-time job and you're just on freelance for that extra side income, perhaps, something to look forward to in terms of how you ultimately would want to transition full-time into your freelance gig, right? So thank you all for your time. I'm going to stop sharing the screen now first. I know it's already 3 o'clock, but if anyone has any questions, floor's open. If no questions, just give me a thumbs up so I know you're all good. Okay, Abi is good, Nabila's good, SD is good, Fadila, Hannah as well, Shafiq, Gillian. Okay, cool. Muzafar's good. Moti is good as well. Okay, cool. So thank you guys, but I think perhaps before we all hop off, do you guys want to like just turn on your camera so we can have like a group photo? At least the group photo, right? Hey, Andy, man, I'm always like jealous of Andy's hair, man. Dude, he takes care of his hair so well. Okay, Fadila's here. Cool. Come, everyone. And love the hair. Can like how can you like, dude? Need to like get sponsored by a shampoo brand, man. Okay, Nabila, come, don't shy. Hana, mana? Kilin, Abi, yeah, don't shy. We're all at home, man. Like,